Welcome to hell. The shuttle doors hissed open with finality, and Maya Chen felt the humid breath of Zirian Prime wash over her face like a warning. She stepped onto the metal platform, her boots clanging against the grated surface as 3 sets of alien eyes watched her with barely concealed amusement. Well, drawled Commander Vex, his reptilian features twisted into what passed for a smile among his species. His forked tongue flicked out to taste her fear in the air. The little Deathworlder thinks she can survive the Crucible Arena. How delightfully naive. Maya turned to face him, her dark eyes flashing with defiance. Naive? That's rich coming from someone who looks like a gecko had a one-night stand with a crocodile. She crossed her arms, ignoring how the other 2 guards, Zal and Kef, exchanged nervous glances. Tell me, Commander, do you shed your skin when you're embarrassed or just when you lose? Vex's pupils contracted to slits. The Crucible Arena was a galactic empire's most feared punishment facility, where the worst criminals were sent to die for the entertainment of trillions across the galaxy. No human had ever been sent here before. No human had ever been considered dangerous enough. Until Maya. Your mouth will get you killed faster than predators will, Zal muttered, his insect-like mandibles clicking nervously. The Shadowmaws haven't eaten in 3 cycles. They're hungry, and you, he gestured at her with one of his forearms, look like a very small snack. Maya laughed, the sound echoing off the metallic walls. Hungry predators? Oh no, however will I survive? She leaned forward conspiratorially. Here's a fun fact about humans, Bug Boy. We didn't climb to the top of our food chain by running away from hungry animals. We got there by becoming hungrier. The platform began its descent into the arena depths. Maya watched the artificial sunlight fade above them, replaced by the eerie red glow of emergency lighting. The air grew thicker, more oppressive, carrying the scent of old blood and something else. Something wild and dangerous that made every instinct in her body scream. Perfect. You know, she said conversationally, back on Earth we have this saying, when life gives you lemons, make lemonade. She turned to look at her escorts, her smile sharp enough to cut glass. But when life throws you to alien death monsters, you make monster soup. Kef, the 3rd guard who remained silent until now, finally spoke. His voice was a low rumble, like rocks grinding together. The Shadowmaws are not mere monsters, human. They are apex predators from the darkest corners of space. Their claws can cut through military-grade armor. Their teeth inject neurotoxins that paralyze prey while they eat it alive. They hunt in packs, communicate through pheromones, and show no mercy. Ah! Maya cooed mockingly. They sound adorable. Do they come when you call their names? Can I teach them to fetch? The platform shuddered to a stop. Through the reinforced transparent aluminum viewing wall, Maya could see the arena floor. It was massive, easily the size of several football fields, with rocky outcroppings, twisted metal sculptures, and what looked like the bones of previous victims scattered about like grim decorations. This is your new home, Deathworlder, Vex announced with savage glee. The Crucible Arena, where the Empire's most dangerous criminals come to die. The viewing audience across 17 star systems will watch you become dinner. The betting pools have you lasting exactly 4 minutes and 37 seconds. Maya pressed her face against the viewing wall, studying the terrain below. For minutes? That's insulting. I'll have this place redecorated in 3. The doors will open in 60 seconds, Zal informed her, his mandibles chattering with excitement. Any last words to the cameras, human? Maya looked directly into the floating recording drone that had been following them. She knew millions of beings across the galaxy were watching, waiting to see the first humans sent to die in their favorite gladiatorial blood sport. Yeah, I've got something to say. She straightened her shoulders and fixed the camera with a stare that could melt steel. To all you couch potato aliens out there munching on whatever passes for popcorn in your species, remember this moment. Remember the day Maya Chen, daughter of Earth, walked into your death trap. Her voice dropped to a whisper that somehow carried more menace than a shout. Because you're about to learn why humans are called deathworlders. The countdown began. 50 seconds. 40. 30. The Shadowmaws can smell fear, Keth rumbled. They prefer terrified prey. Good thing I left my fear back on the shuttle, Maya replied, rolling her shoulders to loosen them. I brought something else instead. What? Vex demanded. Maya's smile was absolutely feral. Hunger. 20 seconds. 15. 10. The massive doors began to grind open with a sound like the universe screaming. Beyond them lay the arena floor, bathed in artificial twilight that made everything look like it was dipped in blood. 5, 4, 3, 2. See you boys on the flip side. Maya called over her shoulder as she walked toward the opening. Try not to miss me too much. 1. She stepped into the arena, and the door slammed shut behind her with the finality of a coffin lid. The silence was immediate and total. Even the constant hum of the station's life support systems seemed muted here. Maya stood in the center of the space, turning slowly to take in her surroundings. The rocky outcroppings would provide cover. The metal sculptures could be weapons if she could break pieces off. The bones, well, the bones told their own story. A low growl echoed from somewhere in the shadows. Hello, beautiful, Maya whispered to the darkness. Come out, wherever you are. The growl was answered by another, then another. The pack was moving, circling her position. Maya could hear the soft padding of clawed feet on metal, the whisper of something large sliding through shadows. Above her, in the viewing galleries, she knew thousands of aliens were leaning forward in their seats, waiting for the show to begin. The betting pools were probably going crazy. Some poor sap had probably put money on her lasting more than 5 minutes. They were about to make a fortune. The first Shadowmaw emerged from behind a twisted spire of metal, and Maya had to admit it was impressive. 8 feet tall at the shoulder, built like a cross between a panther and a nightmare, with midnight black fur that seemed to absorb light. Its eyes glowed like molten gold, and when it opened its mouth, she could see rows of needle-sharp teeth dripping with something that definitely wasn't saliva. Well, aren't you a pretty boy? Maya murmured, slowly reaching down to pick up a piece of jagged metal from the arena floor. I bet all the lady monsters think you're just dreamy. The Shadowmaw's lips pulled back in what might have been confusion. It wasn't user prey that talked back. 2 more emerged from different directions. Then 3 more. Within minutes, Maya found herself surrounded by a full pack of the galaxy's most feared predators. 7 of them, all muscle and claw and hungry intelligence. The lead male took a step forward, its claws scraping against the metal floor with a sound like fingernails on a chalkboard. It opened its mouth and roared, a sound that seemed to come from the depths of hell itself. Maya listened politely until it was finished, then cleared her throat. Excuse me, she said conversationally, but are you trying to intimidate me? Because if so, you're going to need to work on your technique. She held up one finger. First, the dramatic pause before the roar needs work. You want to build tension, not rush into it. She held up a second finger. Second, the roar itself was good, very primal, but you're broadcasting your position to every other predator in a 5-mile radius. Tactically unsound. A third finger joined the first 2. And third, you're standing upwind of me, which means I can smell what you had for lunch. Fish, I'm guessing, with a side of something that died badly. The pack exchanged glances that seemed almost confused. This wasn't how prey usually behaved. Oh, I'm sorry, Maya continued, her voice dripping with false sympathy. Did I break your concentration? Were you in the middle of some kind of apex predator group meditation? Please, don't let me interrupt. I'll just stand here and wait while you all figure out how to coordinate an attack on one unarmed human. The lead male's confusion was rapidly transforming into rage. It lowered its head, muscles bunching for a charge that would turn Maya into paste. That's better, she said approvingly. Much more convincing. Now comes the fun part. The Shadowmaw launched itself at her with lightning speed, claws extended, jaws wide enough to bite her head clean off. Maya smiled and stepped aside at the last possible second. The creature shot past her like a furry missile, crashed into one of the metal sculptures, and came up shaking its head in confusion. The other pack members roared in fury and charged as one. Now we're talking. Maya laughed. diving behind a rocky outcropping as 7 apex predators turned the space where she'd been standing into a whirlwind of claws and teeth and very bad attitudes. Above her, in the viewing galleries, she could hear the crowd's reaction, gasps of surprise, excited chittering, the sound of betting pools being frantically adjusted. Maya poked her head up from behind her cover and grinned at the nearest camera drone. Plot twist, ladies and gentlemen. Turns out your apex predators hunt like a pack of confused puppies. Who knew? The lead male had recovered from its collision and was stalking toward her hiding spot, its golden eyes blazing with hatred. Behind it, the rest of the pack spread out in a classic hunting formation. "Oh, you want to try that again?" Maya called out cheerfully. "Sure, why not? Practice makes perfect, after all." She vaulted over the rocky outcropping and landed in a combat crouch, the piece of jagged metal in her hand gleaming in the artificial twilight. 7 pairs of predatory eyes fixed on her with laser focus. "Here's the thing about humans," she said, her voice carrying clearly across the arena. "We're not the biggest. We're not the strongest. We're sure as hell not the prettiest." She shifted her grip on the makeshift weapon. "But we are the most vindictive, stubborn, absolutely refusing to die species you'll ever meet." The pack began to close in, moving with the coordinated precision of hunters who had killed together countless times. "And right now," Maya continued, her smile widening until it looked positively unhinged, "I'm feeling particularly vindictive." The lead male roared again in charge, followed instantly by the rest of the pack. Maya stood her ground until the last possible second, then moved. What happened next would be talked about in cantinas and betting parlors across the galaxy for decades to come. The day a single human walked into the Crucible Arena and turned the food chain upside down. The day the predators learned what it meant to be prey. The making of a queen. What Maya did next violated every known law of physics, common sense, and galactic entertainment regulations. Instead of running, dodging, or doing anything remotely resembling self-preservation, she did something that made the viewing audience across 17 star systems collectively hold their breath. She laughed, not a nervous giggle or a hysteria-induced cackle, but a deep, genuine belly laugh that echoed off the arena walls like thunder. The charging pack of Shadowmaws faltered mid-stride, their predatory instincts suddenly confused by prey that found imminent death hilarious. "You know what?" Maya called out, still chuckling as she casually tossed her makeshift weapon aside. "This whole hunting thing is adorable, but you're doing it all wrong." The lead male skidded to a halt 3 feet away from her, its golden eyes wide with something that might have been bewilderment. The rest of the pack formed a loose circle around her, uncertain whether to attack or retreat from this clearly insane creature. "Let me guess," Maya continued, addressing the lead male directly. "You're used to prey that runs, screams, begs for mercy, right? Something that makes sense according to the natural order of predator and prey." She shook her head in mock disappointment. "Boring. Where's the challenge in that?" In the viewing galleries above, Commander Vex leaned forward, his reptilian features twisted in confusion. "What is she doing?" he hissed at his companions. "Has the human lost her mind?" "I think," Zhao replied slowly, his mandibles clicking nervously. "She never had one to begin with." Back in the arena, Maya had begun to pace in a slow circle, keeping eye contact with each member of the pack as she moved. "See, here's what you magnificent murder kittens don't understand about humans. We don't just fight to survive. We fight to win. And winning means showing everyone watching that we're not just harder to kill than they thought." She stopped directly in front of the pack leader, so close she could feel its hot breath on her face. "We're the new management." The Shadowmaw's confusion was rapidly transforming back into rage. It opened its massive jaws, revealing those needle-sharp teeth, and let out a roar that should have turned Maya's bones to jelly. Instead, she took a step closer. "My turn," she said quietly. What came out of Maya Chen's throat next was not quite a roar, not quite a scream, but something that seemed to combine the fury of every human who had ever faced impossible odds and decided to punch them in the face anyway. It was the sound of apex predators who had clawed their way to the top of the food chain on a planet where everything was trying to kill them, and had succeeded so thoroughly that they'd run out of things to be afraid of. It was the sound of a species that had looked at the vastness of space and decided to make it their backyard. The Shadowmaws recoiled as if they'd been physically struck. The pack leader actually took a step backward, its ears flattening against its skull in a gesture that looked remarkably like submission. "That's better," Maya said approvingly. "Now we're communicating properly." She began to walk toward the nearest pack member, a slightly smaller female with scars across her muzzle. The creature's eyes tracked her movement, but it made no aggressive moves. "You know what your problem is?" Maya asked conversationally. "You've been the apex predators for so long, you've forgotten what it feels like to be challenged. You've gotten soft, complacent, lazy." The scarred female let out a low growl, but it lacked the menace of before. "Oh, don't get me wrong," Maya continued, reaching out slowly to touch the creature's flank. "You're absolutely magnificent killing machines. Beautiful, efficient, perfectly adapted to your environment." Her hand made contact with the Shadowmaw's fur, and the creature went rigid with shock. "But you've never met anything like me before." Above them, the viewing audience was going insane. Betting pools were being adjusted by the second. Emergency broadcasts were interrupting regular programming across the galaxy. The impossible was happening live on camera. A human was petting a Shadowmaw, and the Shadowmaw was letting her. "You see," Maya said, her voice carrying clearly to every microphone in the arena, "humans have this thing we call the domestication instinct. We look at dangerous predators and think, you know what? I bet I could make that thing love me." She scratched behind the scarred female's ear, and the creature's eyes actually began to close. "We turned wolves into lapdogs. We convinced cats to live with us even though they're perfectly capable of taking care of themselves. We made friends with horses that could kick our heads clean off." The pack leader was watching this interaction with something that looked like fascination. Its tail had stopped lashing, and its aggressive posture had relaxed into something resembling curiosity. "The secret," Maya continued, moving to the next pack member, "isn't dominance. It's not about being the biggest or the strongest. It's about being the most interesting thing in the room." She was now standing in the center of the pack, surrounded by 7 of the galaxy's most feared predators, all of whom were watching her with a kind of attention usually reserved for particularly fascinating prey. "And right now," she said, turning to address the cameras directly, "I am definitely the most interesting thing in this room." Commander Vex was frantically pressing buttons on his communication device. "This is impossible," he snarled. "Security, prepare the backup protocols. Release the venom spiders. Release the bone crushers. Release everything." "Sir," came the nervous reply, "the regulations clearly state that arena combat must follow established protocols. We can't just release additional predators without proper authorization forms in triplicate and a 48-hour waiting period for safety reviews." "Safety reviews?" Vex screamed. "She's petting them. The human is petting the Shadowmaws." Meanwhile, Maya had apparently decided that 7 new friends weren't enough. She was examining the arena walls, looking for something. "You know what this place needs," she announced. "Better lighting, and maybe some music, something with a good beat." She spotted what she was looking for, a control panel partially hidden behind one of the metal sculptures. "And definitely better climate control. It's way too humid in here." She walked over to the panel, the pack following her like oversized, deadly puppies. A few quick manipulations of controls, and suddenly the arena was flooded with bright, natural-looking light. Hidden speakers began playing what sounded suspiciously like earth jazz. "Much better," Maya said with satisfaction. "Now it feels like home." The viewing galleries had gone completely silent. Across 17 star systems, beings were staring at their screens in absolute disbelief as a human redecorated the galaxy's most feared death trap, while casually surrounded by creatures that should have eaten her 10 minutes ago. "You know," Maya continued, addressing the pack as if they were old friends, "this whole gladiatorial combat thing is really quite medieval. Primitive, even. Surely a civilization advanced enough for interstellar travel could come up with better entertainment." The pack leader tilted its head, and Maya could swear it looked like it was actually listening. "I mean, look at you magnificent creatures. You're wasted in here, fighting scared criminals for the amusement of couch potatoes. You should be out there, exploring the galaxy, discovering new worlds, meeting interesting species. She paused thoughtfully, and then deciding whether or not to eat them. Of course, I'm not completely unreasonable. Above them, emergency klaxons began blaring. Security forces were mobilizing. The impossible had become the unthinkable, and the unthinkable was threatening to become the new normal. Maya looked up at the viewing galleries and waved cheerfully at the cameras. Hi there, galactic audience. I hope you're enjoying the show. I know this isn't quite what you were expecting, but honestly, your previous entertainment was getting pretty stale. Same old thing every time. Predator hunts prey. Prey dies horribly. Everyone goes home feeling like they've witnessed something meaningful. She shook her head in disappointment. Where's the character development? Where's the plot twist? Where's the growth? The pack had arranged themselves around her in what could only be described as a protective formation. The lead male had positioned himself between Maya and the arena entrance, as if anticipating trouble. But don't worry, Maya continued, her smile taking on that sharp edge again. I'm about to give you a show you'll never forget. Because here's the thing about humans that you really need to understand. The arena door suddenly burst open, and a squad of heavily armed security forces poured in, weapons raised and targeting systems locked on Maya. We don't just survive impossible situations, she said, her voice dropping to that dangerous whisper again. We thrive in them. The Shadowmaws immediately went into full combat mode, placing themselves between the security forces and Maya. Their earlier confusion had been replaced by something that looked remarkably like protective loyalty. And when we find ourselves in a position of power, Maya continued, seemingly oblivious to the dozen energy weapons trained on her, we tend to redecorate. What happened next would go down in galactic history as the day the entertainment industry discovered that some prey items come with their own security detail. The pack moved as one, flowing like liquid shadow toward the security forces. But instead of their usual killing frenzy, they displayed a coordination and tactical awareness that surprised everyone. They disarmed rather than dismembered, knocked unconscious rather than killed, and seemed to be following Maya's earlier advice about being more interesting than merely deadly. Within minutes, a dozen trained security operatives were unconscious on the arena floor, and their weapons were being examined with curious interest by creatures who had never needed tools to kill before. Maya picked up one of the energy rifles and tested its weight. You know, back on Earth, we have the saying about being careful what you wish for. She looked directly into the nearest camera, her dark eyes blazing with an intensity that made viewers across the galaxy lean back in their seats. The Galactic Empire wanted to see what would happen when they threw a human to their apex predators. She gestured to the pack of Shadowmaws, who were now sitting in a loose semicircle around her like the galaxy's most dangerous honor guard. Congratulations, she said with a smile that was equal parts warmth and menace. You got your answer. The arena fell silent, except for the soft jazz music still playing from the hidden speakers. In the viewing galleries, beings who had come expecting to see entertainment found themselves witnessing the birth of something unprecedented. A human queen with a court of apex predators, ruling over a domain that had once been designed for her destruction. So, Maya announced, settling herself comfortably on what had once been the Crucible Arena's killing floor. Who wants to discuss the terms of my surrender? Her laughter echoed through the arena as security forces scrambled, administrators panicked, and betting pools across the galaxy exploded in chaos. The Deathworlder had not just survived the apex predators. She had convinced them to change careers. And somewhere in the back of every alien mind watching the broadcast, a small, terrifying thought began to take root. If one human could do this, what would happen when the rest of them found out?